All right, we are live IPS Deprogram for November the 17th, 2025. So right off the start, I want to remind you that I'm going to be on with Fakeologist at 6 p.m. as we are every Monday. And it's kind of a slow PSYOP week. So if you have anything that you want to call in about, today would be a great day. And the number will be posted on the screen. So we'll be live on this channel as well. So yes, live this evening with Fakeologist. And yeah, it's been a little slow, but I mean, it's just been kind of salacious, nonsensical, Epstein drama. Candace Owens has done her 32nd episode on Charlie Kirk. It's like her main topic. So we're on second shooter number 33, I guess, on the next episode. I don't listen because it already has a pre-scripted conclusion. No, we're looking a little bit deeper here into the details. So I know we should be worried about the encroaching technocracy, dystopia, and all that. But in the meantime, I thought, let's take a little bit of a look at some of the characters that populate the bread and circuses, the bread and circus clowns. And I call them the Metascripted. You got the Metascripters, the writers, the producers, the content reinforcement aspect of the psychological warfare. But you also have the characters that populate the thing. And that's kind of what I want to focus on. So we've talked about people like Elon Musk being a composite. And now what's intriguing about this is we were talking about Serapis, the combo god, basically a composite deity consciously created as such to unite various groups across a geographical region under a single god who's just like a combination of all of them. It's this consolidation of worldview is what we have been talking about. And I've been describing the world stage characters in much the same way. Just like the gods of old, these are Frankenstein monster creations. And someone like Musk is a perfect example of it because he's a combination of Tony Stark, Willy Wonka, Iron Man, Henry Ford, maybe a little bit of Jack Parsons, some Nick Bostrom. But when you look at the big picture of him and his character arc, he walked out of Werner von Braun's book. He has some von Braun in his persona. These are manufactured characters who are, in fact, amalgamations of a lot of different characters for the purposes of, I think, creating a unifying character, like a unifying God. And Trump, I'm not Trump, but Musk does have worshippers who view him as a savior, Pope Elon, as we call him, fondly. And then it's because von Braun said that the power structure on Mars would be like that of Rome, and that the first dictator is the Elon who colonizes. All right, so now what I'm talking about today, though, isn't Musk. We're talking about Trump. So, and the Metascripted characters, and a lot of the MAGA people still think it's real. Even the Q people, no matter how far down into the conspiracy rabbit trails the Q people went, they never ceased believing that Trump was an authentic individual, that he wasn't completely as scripted and fake as any crisis actor. It's a reality TV show. Bread and circuses is entertainment as government. And that's a difficult thing for people to accept when they're emotionally invested into the cult. And we approach this as this is the state religion. We're deconstructing their God constructs, their gods, their myths, their miracles. We're looking at the meta scripture. What we're talking about here is religion as worldview framework and pseudo history, projections about the future. And that's what we have here, but media has replaced it. And we're just looking at these characters a little more closely. And I'm looking, as we did with the Charlie Kirk thing, I'm looking for common denominators in all of the foreshadowing content and the concurrently released entertainment content, the so-called predictive concurrent programming. Now, with that one, we noted that from the earliest instance in Snake Eyes to the later instances, they all had Tyler, execution, very specifically placed neck wound against the backdrop of a storm with the name Kirk. So we found the common denominators that apply to all of them, even the podcast, the music video, etc. And from that, we were able to determine, how far back did this scripted event exist, at least as a script. When was the script for CK's squibbing circulated in the back rooms where they fabricate our history, back at the PSYOP Entertainment Complex headquarters, wherever that is? And so I think it's reasonable to say an event like that was planned at least as far back as like 98, judging by the proliferation of specific messaging, like product placement for the incoming event. But it's the common denominators that we're looking at now. And so now when it comes to someone like Trump, I'm thinking, well, what are the common denominators in all the representations of him that we have seen so far? And we're just kind of scratching the surface here, because there's a couple of details that caught my attention when I was thinking about it. And I said, we have to look at these common denominators with the fictional representations of world stage personages. So, for example, I noticed that in the fictional representations of Trump, you have 9/11 references, assassination attempt references, or both. And we'll go through these in just a minute. Let me catch up on your comments. What's up, Anan from X? I'm really glad that X now has comments integrating with the Restream chatbot. That was always a problem. They were always left out. But now if you're on X, you can listen there just as well as you can listen on YouTube, and you can still interact. We get your comments. Nicotrauma says, I like the show you do with Fakeologist, but I like the show on Wednesday with Fake Nukesville and Jim Rizzoli too. I'll have to listen to it. I like Fake Nukesville. They lie, we see. Do What's Less says, good morning, good evening. Tim and Fake Nukesville would be a great listen, says Till. Everyone else can't get past the mainstream talking points. Yeah, and I want to make it a point to discuss things with people who have reached this certain perspective. And they may not be full on board with the off-world stage perspective. They might have some political horseshoe agenda that keeps them there. That's fine. We're trying to make anybody who's at least skeptical enough of the alt media to kind of take a step away from it and expand the conversation to the idea that not only does the predictive content suggest these things are planned in advance, but the scale of it has been, I think, kind of ignored or missed altogether. Because we're talking about long term. If they're bending the news, that's one thing. A news cycle, it's like a PR stunt. But we're talking about long-term planning for globally significant events. And that sounds like science fiction. But we're saying, no, this is actually standard operating procedure, and that the daily systemic fakery all serves this purpose. And what we're finding here are consistencies, and that's what we're examining. What's up, Mex says? Thanks for joining. David John. Busy 56 says, what's up, off-world stagers? Yeah, one thing that won't happen is we won't get inundated with world stagers, because you can't really fake this perspective. And the people who don't have it resent it. They don't like it. I mean, we have a couple of them. We have a couple MSM pluses we keep around just so we can study them as far as how predictable the responses are and how triggered they are. And I'm saying these are mind war casualties suffering from MK Ultra-itis, and it's not hard to trigger them. And they see us as being, I don't know, like too caught up in details when we should be worried about the mark of the beast or the food riots when SNAP gets cut for Thanksgiving. Like, it's always one doomsday scenario after another with some of these, and with conspiracy theories in general. It actually is. I think Marjorie Taylor Greene is like claiming that people are sending pizzas to her house, and then she's getting death threats all because of Trump, and it turns out that was fake. It's all just hysteria driven. Most people who claim that they're getting swatted are lying. Getting swatted is a psyop, by the way. Anime says, I'm trying to find more channels like yours and Fakeologist, sick of the shills. Well, okay, so here's the agenda. When we have enough people, and this is the objective for the next few months, and we have a pretty solid plan, and it revolves around the new book. But what we need to do is build enough of a network of people who are close enough that we can do some, planned panel conversations about things. Because some things just need to evolve, and there's no like centralized guiding intelligentsia behind any of this. People just default to whatever is trending on X by whoever's being promoted, whether it's someone like Stu Peters or Candace Owens or any of these other circus clowns. The off-world stage doesn't have representation. And the people who have this perspective need to recognize this. How many thousands of people have tweeted at Candace Owens, Charlie Kirk's not dead, the whole thing's fake? Of course she's going to ignore you. You don't exist in their closed informational system. Like they're like Disney, you're like Warner Brothers. So these are like, they don't want your perspective represented here. We don't exist. It's not that we're censored. It's that we don't exist, which is kind of worse. But the reason why we don't exist is they can't confront this. So this is different than regular conspiracy theories where they can confront it and debunk it. Because what we're pointing out here has been really just hand waved and dismissed. Like nobody has really confronted it. They've been contented with describing what we're pointing out as just coincidences, eerie, ironic coincidence. And people notice these things, but they forget it the next day. Because facts don't matter if your perspective is world stage. It's too subjective. You're in the sea of irrelevance. You might have a fact, you might have something right, but your context is wrong. And we have the right context. Our context is everything they're looking at, but also inclusive of the awareness of the psyops, short-term and long-term effects on our timeline. We're talking about significant timeline manipulation. They control time like the design authority in Megalopolis. So let me go ahead and go through this just so you can see where I'm getting at here. And again, this is just a cursory look, but we're getting a little deeper into this because the idea here is we're looking for common denominators. So here we have Trump on the world stage. And we all know, we'll just go through them. He was characterized through Biff Tannen as being a bully, and Biff Tannen's based on Trump. So Biff Tannen is in Back to the Future. And what does Back to the Future have in it? Copious predictive programming for 9/11, the whole World Trade Center scenario. And Biff Tannen represents Trump and his present administration, like future President Trump. So like he basically foreshadowed Trump in his current form. So you have, again, as I said, the Trump representations have 9/11, assassination theme, or both. So then the next one, Senator McLaughlin, played by De Niro, was a Trump-esque character. And this is from 2010's Machete. He was shot at while he's at the podium ranting about illegal immigrants, just like Trump was. Trump was literally pointing at a sign about illegal immigrants when he was shot at. So I thought, okay, this is interesting. You have the assassination theme in this one. And then Robert De Niro, just because I'm referencing the actor as well, he was in Taxi Driver as the assassin, which is kind of a connection here because he actually inspired John Hinckley to shoot Reagan. And of course, Hinckley's birthday is JFK's birthday, and that's another element we're going to look at here. We have, and I haven't seen this one, but Super Mario Brothers, Dennis Hopper, who died on JFK's birthday. So there's some fascinating connections with the dates, as you'll see. So Dennis Hopper plays King Koopa, who's based on Trump, and they've got Koopa Towers, which are the Twin Towers, which get incinerated. So here you have a Trump character associated with 9/11. I haven't seen it. I don't know if there's an assassination theme. What's up, R&R? This is great channel. Thank you. Here is your wrench. Adam Driver, he's the Neo-like character in Megalopolis. He plays Caesar Catalina, the Trump-esque character. And this movie's intricate. I could spend a lot of time on it because they really layered in the Trump stuff, even throwing in characteristics of Trump into another character. But I want to stay focused. Caesar Catalina is like this um, Trump-esque character who survives an assassination attempt. So one, he gets shot at and he survives, resurrects 3 days later. So it's one connection. And that has a whole sub thing that we can get into later. But 9/11. Not only is the movie about a 9/11ing of New York when a Russian satellite falls and hits New York, but it actually was filmed. Coppola's movie was started before 9/11, being filmed in New York, contains footage from 9/11/01. So in this movie, he included footage from the day of 9/11, 2001's terror attacks. He had footage that day while he was filming his movie. He included it. And he said the reason why he put the movie on hold is that it was about 9/11, basically, and it happened in real life. So it's one of these instances where it's kind of a tell in terms of, a metascriptor, but he waited, a couple decades to finish producing it. But again, it contains the assassination attempt. And this is pretty much aligned with the timing of the real thing and has 9/11 all in it. So again, another example of a Trump-esque character with these same common denominators. Then there's Mickey 17. Mickey 17, this is Mark Ruffalo's movie. He plays the Trump-esque character. They shoot at him. The bullet grazes his cheek. And then he poses for the cameras. He demands the media look at him so he can flex for the cameras while his cheek is bleeding. Sound familiar? Like the whole fight thing? Yeah, this was filmed, of course, 2 years before the Butler event. But anyway, Mark Ruffalo portrays a Trump and gets shot at. I mean, there's a theme here. Mark Ruffalo's birthday, by the way, is 11/22, which is JFK's death day. Another one I mentioned is Harrison Ford. Harrison Ford. I was thinking Henry Ford because I was comparing him to Musk with his publications, his fueling of what was then like some of the earliest popular anti-Semitic conspiracy theories, and how Musk has done that with X. And I was comparing the Ford T to the Tesla. We'll do some breakdowns with Musk later, but Harrison Ford is playing a president at a podium who gets shot at, and he actually gets thrown down to the ground like Trump. And that was in a trailer for the Captain America, which came out the day before Butler. And Marvel Comic Universe altered it as a result. He becomes the Red Hulk. So Red Hulk has some significances, which I'm not going to get too deep into now. But there's the birthday thing and getting shot at, and a Trump guy getting shot at. The Trump connection is mainly in the Red Hulk, Red MAGA connection, the shooting at the podium, completely mirroring what happened with Trump. And interestingly, his character is opposed by Sidewinder, played by the same actor who portrays the antagonist to both Adam Driver and sets up the assassination, and he's the antagonist to the Homelander, who I haven't put here. So the Homelander is another Trump character. And guess what? Yep. They had to change the season finale because of the whole plot to assassinate him. They failed and all that. But the point of it is, it was noted by the media. The timing of it was too close to the real event, so they had to alter Assassination Run. But the buildup was really big for the Trump thing. So here's just an example. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, about 7. And I didn't even mention, I guess I could. We've got Biff Tannen in here. Trackdown, 1958. So in Trackdown, the Trump character builds a wall, sells them on defense from a cosmic threat, so that's Space Force, and he gets arrested. So we're just mentioning the different ways that Trump has been foreshadowed in his present form, and how there are common denominators with these. Now, Trackdown has some pretty good examples of what would become of Trump, but the rest of them I've mentioned, which are all more recent, which makes more sense anyway. The more recent they get, the more specific they can be. But in the 6 examples that I put here, you have not only the Trump represented, but a correlation between this character and the Twin Towers, or an assassination attempt. So there's a couple common denominators with the Trump predictive programming proxies that all feed into the world stage character, the one that's going to go down in history. We're looking at essentially psyop reinforcement. Cygirl says millions of Americans were inclined to think that Trump faked the event. Yeah, that's true, but their point of view makes their opinion irrelevant. It really does, because they don't think the event was fake and the media faked it. This is a staged event. They think this was a psyop by Trump and his team to win votes. Like, they don't look at it in the big picture, and they haven't even really thought about it, because that's a ridiculous claim if you don't go any deeper. Like, so wait a minute, if he faked it and the Secret Service was in on it, if they were in on it, then what about? And it opens up a number of other questions. So I just find it's a very shallow take, and it's pretty much just a political opinion. Like, they don't want to give him credit for it because it makes him seem heroic. If you remember the headlines of the day, the media was like, something about a sudden event at the Trump rally causes it to shut down. Like, they were saying anything but he survived and acted the hero. They try to downplay it. But no, to say it's fake is a marginal view. And here's why I disagree with you, is that when I say something's fake, the word fake means something different than when a conspiracy theorist says fake. And both of us are saying something different from when a mainstreamer says fake. So if mainstream says fake, it means political bias or just a lie. If a conspiracy theorist says it's fake, they mean it's a false flag or Israel did it. So put Israel. And then when we say it's fake, we mean that the entire event was planned 10, 15 years ago, complete theater, nobody died, nobody cried. In the conspiracy theorist take, people died. It was probably real. And when the normies say it's fake, they mean, oh, well, the fireman still died and the other guy got injured, and so that was real. So no, they don't say it's fake explicitly, because then they have the dead fireman to deal with. So it's not a coherent opinion for someone to have. And if you ask them, they don't know. I've confronted this. I've had someone say, oh yeah, I think I faked it. And I was like, well, what about the fireman? And one security guard who was talking about this says, well, I think they hired the kid to miss and he accidentally killed somebody, but they were going to kill him anyway. I'm like, what? So you can't actually form a coherent take on it from the mainstream perspective if you say the event is fake. It doesn't really compute. All right, going through your comments. What's up, Flozik? Thanks for joining. All right, so let's go ahead and just wrap up the main point here. The main point is the movie representations of Donald Trump over the decades have had some common denominators in how he's characterized. And there's deeper levels we could go to with this, with his real estate magnate stuff. I got Man in Full and a few other movies and cartoons and comic books. So we're scratching the surface. But if we just look at these 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 examples of Trump in the movies, it's not just life or art imitating life. It's not like they're just like, let's model this off of reality. It's not like this is something that is being done explicitly, because these things have elements of foreshadowing that we're talking about. That's what makes it more than just they're just borrowing ideas from politics. What I'm suggesting here is that the significance of it is simply that in these fictional representations of Trump, they survive assassination attempts and they're associated with 9/11. That's what I'm talking about. It's one or the other or both. So again, Mickey 17, Trump gets shot. Caesar Catalina in Megalopolis gets shot. And New York, it's 9/11, and 9/11 is in the movie. In Super Mario Brothers, King Koopa, based on Trump, Twin Towers get vaporized. Robert De Niro, based on Trump, survives getting shot. He inspired as Travis Bickle, the assassin. He inspired the real assassin, John Hinckley. Then we have Biff Tannen associated with predictive programming in Back to the Future that contains both World Trade. It's mainly the World Trade Center thing. That's the main one. Lots of 9/11 stuff in that movie. And then, of course, finally, Captain America, concurrent programming. But again, the Trump character always has to get shot at, apparently. And we've seen this in music videos and otherwise. I mean, this has just been a theme. Like they did that Julius Caesar in the park. They had Trump as Julius Caesar. And like, what? They're killing Trump in this play. And Laura Loomer jumps on the stage to stop it. So I'm just saying that when we look at the predictive content for the world stage characters, we have to kind of consider, is there consistent messaging? What are the common denominators? And what stands out as very conspicuous? So looking at this, the 9/11 Trump stuff is another rabbit trail. So we're scratching the surface because as we go deeper in, you'll see that I think we're looking at a historic personage, a role that was going to be fulfilled by anybody. I mean, at this point, anybody could just wear a Trump suit and do it and just go through the motions. But we're talking about essentially a glorified crisis actor. If you're going to have a simulated event, you got to have actors. You got to have bread and circus clowns. Nicotrama says, I've tried to get liberal Democrat friends to believe that CK and the Trump assassination thing are fake. It's not possible. The screen is their God. Yeah, I heard a normie say that they think Trump was behind the killing of Charlie Kirk. But again, it doesn't matter. Like, there's no point, because even if you can get them to see this as objectively true, they don't have the context to compute it. From the world stage centric perspective, it doesn't make sense because their perspective is not inclusive of systemic fakery. You have to remember that the normie perspective is Wikipedia, it's ChatGPT's perspective. It doesn't go outside those parameters. I don't know if you've seen this before. I found it. It was in storage, but I mean, I found it a while ago. It's a infinity sign. It says infinite impact. It's kind of like brass knuckles. All right, I'm looking for my eraser. I put out a video the other day and I said why I stopped debating people with settled opinions. And it's because you can't change them. I mean, one reason to debate them, if anything, would simply be to get the best arguments out there so you could construct a steel man, not a straw man. That's not good enough. And a literalist says Charlie Kirk went off script. Yeah, what's funny about it is that's the storyline you're supposed to arrive at. You're supposed to believe, oh, Kirk was going to go against his donations to Israel, so Netanyahu had him killed. Like, come on. That's a planted line, but it's consistent. What they're doing is they're rebooting what they started with JFK. You have to have this schism in media. You have to have the mainstream and the alt. And they both have equal propositions within this political horseshoe model. One of them thinks that the worst thing, the oppressor of the world is systemic racism and whiteness. That's from the left-wing perspective. When this includes Western imperialism, capitalism, all the, the patriarchy. But from the right, they believe, and you can hear this from Nick Fuentes and Candace Owens and all the right-leaning types, they believe that the world is controlled and oppressed by Israel. It's actually very simple. And so from their perspective, Israel did 9/11, Israel did JFK, Israel did fill in the blank. It's just Charlie Kirk. And it's predictable. And that's why their opinions to me are really not the result. When I say that, Candace Owens is not an investigative journalist. You think she's doing research? No, she's a propagandist. And she has scripted, engineered narratives, breadcrumbs to hand you as you follow her down a well-paved rabbit trail that was put there back in 1963. But people fall for it. That's the thing. They fall for it. So it's very simple, though. This is the world stage, the square, the closed informational system. And I've referred to this as mainstream mediation, which is inclusive of all propaganda conduits and outlets. It's not just news. It includes movies, books, celebrity, etc., podcasts. But anyway, The alternative media, which we refer to as MSM plus, it just reflexively disagrees with this or adds stuff onto it. So they believe that Charlie Kirk was killed by fill in the blank. So they both agree that Charlie Kirk was killed. The difference is they believe somebody else did it. That's pretty much the consensus. But the reason why they don't arrive at anything outside of it, like they'll think that anybody killed him, but they won't go with he's not dead. The reason they don't go there is that in this box they don't include media fakery. They believe in false flags where people die. They don't believe that nobody dies. And the nobody dies perspective is an off-world stage thing. People who are MSM plus, they don't like that proposition. They hate it. They fight it tooth and nail. I call them 9/11 jumper death clingers. I mean, they really like, somebody died at 9/11 in the tower. Somebody jumped. Why do you have to have that? Like, they'll agree with me that there were no planes. Nobody in the Pentagon died. They'll agree with all these things, but they'll say, no, somebody had to. It's like, you realize how many drills were going on? It was effectively a closed movie set. Anyway, back to the out of the box news bending, which is the influence, the measurable influence of the psyops on the news cycle. Because it's only a small percentage of the news that has to be fake, as long as it's the agenda setting thing and it contaminates the whole field and both sides agree it happened. They just fight over who did it, which then becomes history bending. So when you look at the perspective from a historical point of view, long-term, history bending, the long-term effects of news bending means that their whole square, this whole box, rests upon reality augmentations, lies that have distorted it. And if you don't keep those distortions in mind, or those superstitions, or whatever it is that didn't actually happen in your assessment of the news, if you don't recognize the fakery, then your perspectives are going to be warped, bent. So for example, whatever you say to ChatGPT about any event, you ask any questions, its answer is going to be MSM friendly. You ask, hey, what happened to Charlie Kirk? They'll say Tyler Robinson did it. But it will acknowledge the conspiracy theories, and it'll tell you, oh, but Candace Owens says Israel did it, but she's wrong. So it will acknowledge the alt, but it'll also say it's wrong, but it doesn't ignore it. Our perspective doesn't get any kind of widespread attention at all. They can hardly even confront it. And the reason why they can't is that this isn't an anomaly. This is systemic, and there isn't a single globally significant psyop that you can point to that doesn't have all the hallmarks of a hoax, of a pre-scripted staged event. And what we have been looking at with our history bending breakdowns is the use of entertainment in general as part of the influence operation to get people to accept these future events. So it's like making them suggestible, conditioning, misinformation effect, product placement. There's a lot of reasons, because we're talking about worldview shaping and how movies and entertainment and celebrities are used to shape worldview, to shape public behavior, how we see things. I mean, we are looking at a very malleable population. What I'm saying is that entertainment has a dual role, and the role is to get us to participate with this manufactured history. I use the term metascript. So metascript is so we have two scripts. We have the historical record, what we think of as history, that's supposed to be random. And you can look at it as a script, as a story, but it's actually just random events in chronological order. But what I'm looking at is the implementation of fake events superimposed over our real timeline. So you have your timeline, just random stuff, or presumed to be random. But every so often we have these events that are inserted. And these events are part of a singular agenda, which is bending history towards some predetermined model and conclusion. And history isn't just something that happens on the news, it's something that you have to internalize. It's something that we all have to experience. We're like co-creating in a way, not literally, but we're co-signing off of it. Like this event happened, we're talking about it, we're bouncing our entire zeitgeist off of it. Now it's real. So let me go through your comments. Anime Gematria says, wait, the Rittenhouse stuff was fake. Yeah, sadly. It was a cool story. I wanted it to be real. I wanted it to be real that he shot a predator in the pelvis, a burglar in the bicep, and just blew that thing off. The other guy was a strangler. I don't know if he deserved the skateboarder. I don't know if he deserved that, but regardless, it was a cool story. You know, white hat, 17, front row Trump rally, single-handedly shuts down the riots. Oh, by the way, I'm pretty sure Kyle Rittenhouse is based on Chris Kyle. Chris Kyle was the sniper during Hurricane Katrina, drove across state lines, just like Kyle Rittenhouse. He got on top of the big dome, the Astrodome, and he claims to have shot dozens of looters. The media didn't even fact check it. They just praised him for his bravery, shooting a bunch of looters. Sounds like Kyle Rittenhouse. Anyway, Chris Kyle, this manufactured hero, basis for the Kyle Rittenhouse myth. Dark Ghost Wind said, King Koopa being based on Trump is funny because the recent Mario movie had predictive programming around Luigi. You know, I'm glad you mentioned that. So Luigi shoots the CEO. No kings, all this anti-Musk rhetoric. So this is also another area that intrigues me because you got talking about the Green Beret thing. So Luigi in SNL is going to kill Wario, played by Elon Musk, and they stop him. So you have Luigi as the assassin. Then because Luigi Mangione, but Luigi with the Green Beret. Then you had the Green Beret who went to the Trump Tower with his bomb-laden Cybertruck and blew it up, sending a statement against Musk and Trump. There's been some intriguing stuff with this Mario Luigi thing, but it's all class warfare coded. And I think it actually ties in with the Joker, the green hair and the Joker, same message, kill the rich, green hair. All right, let's see. Anime says, Rittenhouse is the name of an elite family that ran the world in a TV called Timeless on NBC. Yeah, I think Kyle is just he's basically a right-wing David Hogg, just an actor. I don't think it's insignificant that he was born on January 3rd, 2003, the same birth date as Greta Thunberg. You know, you have like the poster child for the worst elements of the left and the poster child for the worst elements on the right, just same birthday. What, they were hatched, pulled out of the same external womb in their NWO daycare where they create these creatures. Or maybe it is Crisis Actor Island. I don't know where they come from, but they get recruited. Kyle was actually a youth, like police cadet. So he got recruited pretty early is what it looks like. I mean, how else did he get front row at a Trump rally before saving Kenosha? But that event was eye-opening because then we had to really consider, well, how was this faked? Well, first of all, the FBI had drones above the whole time. I have a few theories about it. I think that what they did is they had likely a closed movie set for a certain area. And we can't even rule out the possibility of some of the footage being pre-filmed because there was these Tucker Carlson connected live streamers that were all part of it. I don't trust any of it. Sprightly Sprite says, has anyone think Luigi CEO looks like Hobbit Sam from Lord of the Rings? Psyop Sidecar says, did you see Kirk on the cover of Economist 2026 prediction cover? He's got binoculars. He's on last year's cover too. No, I didn't. I'll have to look at that. The Economist is a great source of predictive programming. And what we're doing here isn't cherry picking from a wide array in constructing narratives, because we're actually following a pretty reliable methodology. It's pretty consistent. And we're taking things that people have noticed for decades and we're just putting it into a framework where it makes sense. And what we have really learned since this Charlie Kirk thing, which has made it just more clear, is that we're not only dealing with events that are meant to warp our history, as in they're proactively creating history. Forget mud flood, forget Tartaria. The manipulation of history isn't just retroactive retconning and fighting over what happened before, but rather, because there's always these interpretations. No, it's the proactive creating of the future. That's what we're talking about. And if you already accept the premise that some events are fake, and we're talking about events that are not only staged and fake, but they never get corrected. Like we're talking about these things that have happened, like, yeah, it's completely fake. The guy was squibbed, nobody died. Does it matter? Well, not to the mainstream media. They're moving on as though it were real. The world stage is going to proceed as though the fake stuff is real. They don't care who notices. They're shameless about it. They're just liars. So that's one thing we're looking at. I mean, it's pretty remarkable if you think about it. But these fake events, even that one, would necessarily be scheduled in advance, approved in advance. Look who's involved. When we're talking about any of these events, you would have to have the involvement of police, law enforcement, government, media. So obviously it's a conspiracy. This is the only real conspiracy, by the way. Forget chemtrails and Bill Gates. The real conspiracy is news bending and history bending. So every one of these fake events that has a measurable, observable effect on history itself and the worldview that every person internalizes, every one of these events would necessarily have been planned in advance. The coordination involved, the scheduling of things. And one of the indicators of foreknowledge or planning in advance would be the drills and the real-time releases of content in mainstream media that eerily mirrors it, and it's often commented on, what we call concurrent programming. So you look at the concurrent programming in one of the more recent examples, we'll go with CK, you have the Hulu series, Tempest. Well, how far back was The Tempest written? Because The Tempest and any of these other things, heads of state, because you have to look at the common denominators between all of the different predictive programming elements. How far back do these same things occur? And so you looking at this, you'll think, well, it has to at least be as old as The Tempest, because Erica Kirk has played out every single action that this character has. Charlie Kirk died in the exact same way. We've talked about this, we've gone over it, but my point is, let's just say The Tempest was 3 years in the making. Well, then the Charlie Kirk thing was planned 3 years in advance. That's not a challenging proposition. We're just saying 3 years, being conservative. So if they're planning an event 3 years in advance and it messes with our timeline, if it bends history, then this makes the case for the proactive creation of history. These aren't just influencing news cycles. They has a bigger role because these are historically significant events. But the thing is, when we include all of the related foreshadowing content, all things else considered, the likelihood of the CK thing being planned 30 years in advance is greater than it being just a few years. So that opens up another line of questions, because it's one thing 3 years in advance, but 30, what does that say about the influence of government over media? Or what does it say about the long-term engineering of our worldview through daily fake news and scripted reality? All right, going through your comments. Dark Ghost Wind says, Bowser being Trump in the old Mario movie is interesting due to the connection the new one has. The CEO, yeah, the Luigi CEO murder, exactly. That's what I'm pointing out here. So he's been for the longest time characterized as this way that we see him now. Not the way that his fans see him, but the way his enemies see him. He's been a manufactured villain. So for all the people who have Trump derangement syndrome, he's a manufactured villain. And I've been saying for some time that we have no control over anything, and this is all just a steam valve for the public to give them the illusion of control. And it's probably not insignificant that Robert De Niro is one of the most pronounced examples of Trump derangement syndrome, and he portrays the assassin of Trump and the assassinated Trump, or the survivor of the assassination attempt. Again, just referencing Travis Bickle and even Murray Franklin in Joker. So Joker, of course, inspired by Travis Bickle in part. Many of the scenes are from Taxi Driver. The fact that Joker shoots De Niro. So De Niro is the assassin and the assassinated, and he portrays Trump as a xenophobic racist that is the villain in the movie, in The Machete. So if you look at it, it's more likely that his Trump derangement syndrome is an act, because it reinforces the role that he has played, emphasizing that Trump is going to be like this. So I'm saying that some of these actors seem to have a role in psyop reinforcement, and it occurs in the characters they portray and in their real world activism and appearances. I've seen the same thing with Joaquin Phoenix, who plays the Joker. But before the Joker 2019, he comes out with Jane Fonda for Fire Drill Friday, where they were doing the climate change protests. He got arrested. If you remember any of that, it had foreshadowing for 2020's summer, and it had this burning globe in the back, says change is coming. Really intriguing when you look at it, because you see them as provocateurs on the world stage, and this is always connected to their movie roles. But the CEO stuff with Luigi is interesting, and the Joker connection, that's another one we could probably get into. But mainly it's that Luigi, we're talking about Mangione and Daniel Penny. Okay, so the Joker connection to Luigi is the class warfare, kill the rich. And the green hair, kind of a symbolic thing. This folk hero who, kills those rich guys in the subway, and think the subway is also symbolic of the lower class in class warfare. Then you have, and so to the left, Luigi Mangione is a hero and something of a martyr for their cause, but he's a hero. So he's like a Joker-like anti-hero, I'll say, to the left. To the right, you have Daniel Penny. And what is Daniel Penny known for? Subway. He's known for strangling a poor guy on the subway, a joker, a performer. The guy was a Michael Jackson performer. And so you have this person, Daniel Penny, being lauded by the right as a hero, a champion of their interests, going into the subway and taking out a bad guy. So you have this parallel here where he's treated as a villain by the left and a hero to the right, and vice versa. Well, as Luigi goes into jail, Daniel Penny gets out. Daniel Penny hangs out with J.D. Vance and Trump at some Navy game, and now he works for J.P. Morgan. Now he's rich. Luigi's in jail fighting terrorism charges. So you have these two characters, Joker, but now Penny fits the Batman in two ways. One, in the beginning of the Joker movie, he's in a subway, he kills the rich guys. Beginning of the Batman movie, he's in a subway, he fights the Jokers. So Batman represents to the fascist right what Luigi represents to the commie left. Like there's this dialectic they've set up here, this class warfare thing. And so, but in the new Batman movie, he goes into a subway and he fights the Jokers. So it's this consistent thing. Well, at the time of the killing of Jordan Neely by Daniel Penny, the strangulation death, at the time, there was this meme on the right that was "Get out." And they said, "Get out of the cities, get out of the cities." And they kept showing videos of violent people on subways. So this was a reoccurring theme. And at the time I said, everybody's saying "Get out." Get out of the cities, get out of the subway. So there was this buildup. And Marjorie Taylor Greene said that Batman was Gotham, that they needed a Batman, they needed vigilantes. And so they praised Daniel Penny as like Batman. So you have the Batman Joker dialectic in these parallel psyops, delivering manufactured hero villains to the respective sides of the political horseshoe. And this gets even more interesting when you look at Get Out and the connection to Jordan Peele and his movie Get Out, which has a Daniel Penny-like character who strangles and even plays lacrosse. So there's some overlaps there as well. Shout out to Synchro Morpheus, who even called out Jordan Peele for having directed the Daniel Penny psyop, which is pretty funny. 777 says, what does the discontinuing of pennies represent? Yeah, the penny thing is intriguing in this whole scenario. We've been looking into this because in Final Destination, the penny is what causes the Space Needle to explode. And the pennies, of course, it has Abraham Lincoln, an assassinated president, Civil War references. So there is something there. It's like the penny falling set off a chain of events. Cygirl says, just because they pass laws, impose electronic surveillance, and extorted tax dollars, there's no reason to consider them as blameless than actors performing a script. Yeah, well, I wouldn't hold out for any kind of accountability here. I really wouldn't. What we're dealing with here is essentially a state religion, and it hasn't been explicit about what it is. But I'm saying there's no way you're going to organize resistance against it. You can't fight it. What are you going to do? The problem here is that the worldview we have is skewed. It's bent. It's been manipulated. And the people in it are really, I don't know. It'd be like organizing all the people in an asylum. Like, yeah, you might be able to physically overthrow the orderlies for a little while, but there's no way you're capable of taking over. Like, we're screwed. Sorry. We're born into it. The programming is ubiquitous. So the mainstream mediated world is all misinformation. And when I say all, yeah, the consensus worldview is misinformation. And this is because of decades of news bending, history bending. Provable. Pick up any history book and flip through the pages, what you have to take to pass like high school history, and you're going to find that it's all mainstream. It's all mainstream news, basically. It's not like it's going to diverge. It's carved in stone. It's pre-scripted. It's predetermined. It's almost like predestination or something. I mean, they just, in the sense, like, there's no way you can alter it because whatever we say, it's going to be censored or ignored or marginalized anyway. Gematria says, get out, don't look up. Sounds like instructions for something. Yeah, don't look up is an interesting one because you have and this is all the same. I mean, this propaganda is always in these movies. And I've always noticed that before I even thought about fake news events. So the idea in Don't Look Up is that in 6 months and 14 days, which is, of course, Trump's birthday, a comet's going to hit the Earth. And the tech billionaires, so like the Bezos, the Musk types, molded into this new character, they decide instead of deflecting it, they're going to mine it so they can become trillionaires. And because they put their economic self-interest above the safety of the world gets hit and everybody dies. Spoiler. We've had plenty of time to see it. But it's the predictable outcome here. And what is it? It's greed of a few that damns us all. Like, we're all condemned. The messaging here is that the West, that America is going to kill us with climate change. So the comet is just a symbol for climate change. And we're not doing anything to avoid it. And these trillionaires are going to disrupt the world economies and bring us all down. But there's another element to it as well, because the main character is Leonardo DiCaprio. Leonardo DiCaprio is the face of the Titanic. And this movie is Earth as Titanic. The comet, which is ice, is the iceberg. And the idea of the Titanic is too big to fail, but it's also a metaphor. And the sinking ship of the West. Like, yeah, we're destroying the climate, we're overusing resources, this is not sustainable, but let's just keep partying. Let's just keep consuming like there's no tomorrow. So this metaphor of the Titanic associated with the West getting hit by an iceberg is just kind of reiterated here with the use of Leonardo DiCaprio. And there's more to it than that, but the main picture here is this idea of the West sinking. And what's interesting is the movie Titanic, which came out in 97, and has 9/11 foreshadowing when the Titanic splits in two and it sinks like the Twin Towers, has jumpers as well. And that's James Cameron, who had 9/11 predictive programming in his movie, The Terminator 2. And on 9/11, James Cameron was at the site of the wreckage of the actual Titanic, which has some significant implications when you get into what he was filming, which was called Ghosts in the Abyss. And of course, Abyss and 9/11. And then here's in the Deep Sea Challenger. So the Challenger overlooking the sunken Titanic. So this kind of connects the sinking of the towers, the World Trade Towers, symbol of the West, very iconic, with the sinking of the Titanic. It was this correlation that was made. And it gets weird because overlooking Ground Zero were these billboards with Arnold Schwarzenegger, the Terminator. The Terminator was looking over Ground Zero. Now, he wasn't in that role. It was in the movie Collateral Damage, which was pulled. The billboards were there. You see him in some of the 9/11 footage. Schwarzenegger was overlooking Ground Zero, but the movie was pulled and delayed until the next year because it had 9/11 like scenes in it. Another one of these movies, like Francis Ford Coppola's Megalopolis, which happened to coincide with 9/11, so they altered it and delayed it. That's not a anomalous occurrence. This is actually pretty common. We're going to go through all the 9/11 survivors, like Seth MacFarlane and others who had interesting relationships with the date and happening to miss it, because we're trying to get an idea of how extensive it is. Because what it looks like to me is that at any kind of platform at all, doesn't matter if it's movies, books, podcasts, if you reach a certain number of people, you're essentially co-opted or used in some way to deploy very specific propaganda messaging. One of the good examples of this is that podcast Thought Crimes, episode 33, where Charlie Kirk is talking about, and he's endorsing televised executions for certain offenses. And he's talking to a guy named Tyler. And Tyler says, oh, well, the last execution was in France on 9/10, September 10th, 1977. So they're talking about guillotine, neck wound, same date, September 10th, live televised execution. And a guy named Tyler is talking to him about this. So it hit all the same elements that are present in the other examples of this predictive content. So it shows you how any platform can be used to put the memes out there, meme conduits. Let's see here. I'm going through your comments. Yeah, look, my perspective on this isn't meant to be like black pill or anything, but I don't think there's any meaningful resistance if people don't even know what they're resisting. Like, think about all the J pillars, the fans of Nick Fuentes. Like, their entire worldview is predicated upon the idea of an oppressor slash scapegoat that they can blame for all these conditions. Well, if their scapegoat is a construct, a literary construct, written into the fabric of their worldview, nothing they can tangibly really prove, but it's more or less just propaganda, ideologues pushing propaganda lines, conspiracy theories, etc. If you take that away from them, then their entire worldview falls apart. Like, I've heard some of these people get mad at me for saying nobody died at September 11th. It was a Stanley Kubrick production. They get mad at that stuff because they've been blaming their enemies for so long for it. Dark Ghost Wind says, why is Discord always at the forefront of these psyops? Yeah, so Discord has been essentially a reoccurring prop in every single psyop since, I'm thinking the Buffalo supermarket, but maybe before that. And they've been doing this. Same thing with Telegram, and they did it with Parler. What they're trying to do is they're trying to create this idea of the mind viruses. Like, you get these mind viruses, you catch them, now you're a threat to society, the disease X. And they have plenty of examples of it now. But they're doing the same thing with Discord that they did with so-called radical mosques, where every time somebody would commit a terror attack, they would try to figure out what mosque did he go to, or where did he get radicalized. So then we could all agree, oh, well, we need the government to protect us from these threats, even if it means infiltrating these groups, spying on people, checking your phone records. And they're making the case for the general public that private servers are a threat to society. I think that's what we're getting into. And it's already been admitted, it's been widely discussed, that the FBI has paid tens of thousands of contractors to hang out on Discord. Now, I don't think that anybody in any of my Discord servers has ever been a Fed. Probably not. Although the Daily Beast was spying on us. They said that we were, quote, shitposting into oblivion. That this was the information equivalent of clear-cutting a forest. Like, they were appalled. And you know what we did when we found out? We kicked them out. Girl says, Discord is a honeypot and graduated animal farm. Well, what they do is they use Discord to provide alt media programming. I saw this. It was very evident. We had I think they were agents. Look, I'm just going to say it. I'm pretty sure we had an agent on our server. I was being facetious when I said we weren't infiltrated. We had some pretty hardcore anti-vaxxers, sure, but these ones were dropping memes that were the same ones, the same day, dropped by Stu Peters and anybody in the far-right J-pill quadrant of Trutherville. It's like, oh, all of a sudden they're all complaining about people from Pakistan, or all of a sudden they're all complaining about, and these issues are just repeated. And it was always anti-Fauci was a big part of it because it got us banned. We got shut down over anti-vax stuff. They'd all talk about, oh, the age of consent's too high because the Jews, or women in the gym, they're no longer modest about it. We have a problem with that. Women need to cover up. I'm like, you're just echoing these MAGA band talking points. But I saw them coming through the same individuals. And I thought, you know, there probably are propagandists. And their job is just to spam servers to keep everybody on the same sheet. And they wanted to maintain Discord as right wing. I don't know if there's any liberal, I don't know. I have to look how it is politically, because I know it's like games and stuff too. But it seemed like the media has characterized Discord as like a right wing thing, whereas Reddit is left. And the latest shooters have all been like Reddit. You know that Reddit guy who shot up the bank? That was weird. That was actually funny. It was the one before Audrey Hale took over the headlines for shooting up the Covenant School. But before Audrey Hale, you had that guy who shot up a bank, and he posted about it on Reddit. But the funny thing was, he said he was trying to make an anti-gun statement. Girl says, so you blame anti-vaxxers for getting shut down? Yeah, the anti-vaxxers got us shut down. That's actually a fact. I was actually shown the exact memes that they used to shut us down. And I just said it was a major foot bullet, because I'm like, I don't entertain that stuff. I don't entertain antis. Like, if you're an anti, you're controlled opposition. We should know this by now. If you don't want to be a drinker or a smoker, I'm an anti-smoker. I'm an anti-drinker. Oh, I don't drink coffee. I'm anti-caffeine. No, I mean, I'm a non-drinker. I'm a non-smoker. You can be a non. The second you take the anti-position, you're marching lockstep with a bunch of mind-controlled zombies, and you're a propaganda mule, serving somebody else's interests and helping to censor your own side. And I just watch these people just trip over their own feet again and again. I'm like, these truthers are being played. And they didn't save any lives. They didn't make any points. They just screeched, got angry. Their blood pressure went up. Like, yeah, you've just been radicalized, red pill woke. And you can't separate these things. These are belief clusters. You can't just have one of these beliefs in isolation, because this is another truism. So you get all these little red pill truths, red pill truths, red pill truths. But it doesn't matter which red pill you're on, because all of them put you in the same subset of the mainstream media on the right side that would fall under what we'd call the J pill. So you got critical race theory on the left. You got critical Jew theory on the right, the J pill. And the red pills are a subset of J pill. They've just been misidentified so they can be sold to the masses, so Alex Jones can sell it. So you can't say J, but you can say George Soros. So they all use codes. So what I'm pointing out here is all these conspiracies are attached to political agendas that put you within their political horseshoe. And anti-pro is a controlled dialectic. If you can't see that, you're brainwashed. You're brainwashed and you're compartmentalized, and you can't see the bifurcated sidewalk. You can't see the forest for the trees. You know, it's a big picture thing. You're in the forest of fakery. So my position is anti-pro, anti-anti, or just say non. I'm not in your sidewalk. I'm not carrying your propaganda. I'm not triggerable. I don't have MK Ultra-itis. What's up, Paradoxymoronics? You know, and there's another dialectic I'd also point out, because I think these are equally fallacious propositions. I think anti-vax and anti-gun are these left-right things that are actually connected. It's guns versus needles. And I've noticed this, and I think it all goes down to psychological manipulation at a very deep level, where like left is feminist coded, right is toxic masculinity coded, the gun is active masculine, they want to take your guns, and then the vax is a very like a passive submissive thing, and it's all the way down the line. And it's fascinating when you get into the concept of borders, how left wing is open borders. That includes national border, that includes their skin because they're pro-vax. That includes they're open to alien invasions. They love the whole stuff. The right, though, I'm talking about the fringes. Right is closed borders, closed skin, and they're afraid of aliens. They want Space Force to protect them. So they're afraid of aliens, terrestrial and extraterrestrial. But they're all about closed and open, closed and open. To what? It's about their relationship to state power. So even though there are many equivalencies, at least the right, well, maybe it's not so true anymore. At least they weren't totally worshiping state power like the left does. Cygirl says, so he submitted to the shots. That's what he's telling us. See, that's how you know you're in a cult. If you're in a cult, there's only two categories, us and them. If you're not anti, you're pro. That's world stage programming. What about non? What about I don't give? But to the person who's anti, if you aren't anti the needle, if you're not frothing at the mouth, foaming at the mouth literally when you see Bill Gates, if that's not where you are, then you took the vax. You committed a mortal sin. That's how they think. They can't even contemplate a third possibility. So he submitted to the shots. You know what? You're hitting the red pill pipe a little too hard. Like, this is all agitprop. It's designed to take the dream world into a nightmare. Since the dream world's not holding your attention, you might actually get off their funny farm. So what do? They give you some stronger meds. You replaced your blue pill for some red pill. Now you're freebasing it. And now you think that because I don't agree with you and I don't take the anti position because I'm not triggered, that I am somehow one of them and I'm a goo blood. Yeah, I'm a goo blood. I got so tired of anti-vax rhetoric that I was going to take a vax in the neck, like live, just to make a point. You know, there's a guy that took like 216 of those shots. She says, let's not show the bad manners of wondering how many boosters he's had. You see, how is that not culty? If you're not anti-vax, then you're a traitor who gets vaxxed every day and you're boosted. Like, by your rationale, wouldn't I be dead? You know, you anti-vax cultists haven't made any serious cogent points since maybe 2021. Like, sorry, you lost all your arguments. The last gasp I heard was, okay, there was no Vaxageddon, but they sterilized us. There's no more babies. Notice no women are walking around with their babies. Where's all the pregnant women with their big bellies? Well, I don't know, maybe laying down. You expect to see a 8-month pregnant woman just walking around in every street corner? But my point of it is, they were holding out hope that everybody was sterilized. So at least all their years of fretting over agitprop would be worth something. And no, you got played. You got triggered. All right, Cy Girl, you're advocating for MSM plus, and that's fine. You know, I think it's fine. Because we need to make these distinctions. And this is good. This is actually healthy. So you got the mainstream mediation, then you have the subset, and the subsets are the woke. So red pill is woke. Red pill woke. J pill is woke. Woke means they've awoken to the agenda that they're all going to die. White genocide, Vaxageddon, chemtrailageddon, whatever is going to get you that day. That's what typifies MSM plus. It's all the conspiracy stuff, all the variations that they're, quote, woke to. And like the woke left, the red pill woke and the woke right are in a chronic state of agitation, and they're in a cult. And if you're not in their group, you're the enemy working for the enemy, you're a traitor. And again, this is a subset designed to catch the people who don't find themselves satisfied with the mainstream programming. Our perspective is called MSM minus. And the reason why is that we don't want to be part of the pro or the anti. We don't have a platform in the controlled alt media or mainstream. And our perspective takes into account fakery, psyops, agitprop, the political horseshoe narratives, and of course, news bending and history bending, as we mentioned before. And from this perspective, all this stuff is crap. Bill Gates is a manufactured martyr. I mean, a villain. I mean, he's a savior to the left. Okay, another thing. One of my axioms is any one of these characters or psyops that has a perfectly bifurcated response is fake. So let's take, for example, Elon Musk. To the right, he's a hero. To the left, he's a villain. Bill Gates. To the right, he's a villain. To the left, he's a hero. So you got these billionaires who are simultaneously saviors and villains. How can that be? How can one be genocidal and a savior, and the other one be genocidal and a savior? Like, how does that work? Well, it's because our society is schizoid. Clockwork says, don't you want to wear the ribbon? Exactly. Critterfest says, hi, Tim, insane pureblood here. Flozic says, anti versus people are corny here. Yeah, I was one of them for years, but thanks to IPS for getting me out of that box. Yeah, get out of the box. You're programmed. If you're in a state of fear because what you saw in the black box, the propaganda worked on you. Like, I'm not even stressed. I'm not even scared. I wasn't scared in 2020. I took a road trip with my stimmy. Like, I'm unperturbed. Quiescence. The original skeptics who suspended judgment said it would result in detaching from things that you cannot verify as real. and you would reach this state of mind called ataraxia, which translates to peace of mind. So how do they maintain the status quo? War. War is peace. Mind war. Endless mind war. So we're talking about scripted history. It's not just they're writing history, they've got creative control, it's a worldview monopoly. It's not just that. It's that it's mind war, the theater of psy-war, that it's propaganda designed to get you to submit and capitulate to their power. It's fear-based propaganda. So your mind is in a constant state of war. Lynn just went to war with me, accused me of being a traitor. Like, I'm going to be put in the gallows. Send me to the guillotine. I'm a goo blood. Now, I never got the goo blood, but apparently I'm a goo blood now, just by default. I'm a traitor. Now, that's because in the state of war, there's only two sides, us and them. And I admitted, yeah, I'm not on your side. If you're anti-vaxxer, I'm actually anti-you. I'm anti-anti. Sorry. If you're anti-geoengineering, I'm anti-geoengineering too. I'm against your opposition to chemtrails. So yeah, I'm anti-anti. But I'm also anti-pro. I reject all the mainstream crap as well. I reject the alternative crap and the mainstream crap. You love the alternative crap. And I'm calling your alternative crap what it is. And there's something outside of it. And what's outside of it is a perspective, a point of view that you don't get in their mind war zone. And this point of view isn't about achieving peace of mind, even though that's a side effect. It's understanding the world apart from the worldview and trying to ascertain what's behind the illusion. Because obviously there's something that we can't see beneath a very, convincing illusion. But right now we're taking a perspective that you're better off being skeptical, not overreactive. Don't get recruited. Don't be conscripted into the red pill army, the J pill army, the woke town army. Don't be lulled into the apathy of Normieville. And if you are a free thinker, you shouldn't be marching behind a Candace Owens with those stale breadcrumbs. You shouldn't be drinking the Kool-Aid at Alex Jonestown. At this point, with what we know now, there's nobody here that should be in the box, with the exception of Lloyd and Lynn, I guess. But from my perspective, these individuals are operating within a closed informational system like ChatGPT. Their responses are guardrailed. And what are they guardrailed against? They're guardrailed against the idea that psyops don't result in real deaths. And for them, the Vaxageddon scenario, which is all in their head, resulted in millions of deaths, billions even. Who knows? There's like no limit. It's all fantasy based. Oh, everybody's sterilized now. Everybody's got cancer now. Everybody who died because of that. That was the trend for a long time. Like, I guarantee if I die today or tomorrow, she'll say it's because he got boosted. She won't even say, I'm sorry for your loss. She'll say he got boosted. He wasn't an anti-vaxxer. His death doesn't matter. I never understood that rationale anyway. If you really believed all this stuff, why would you be warning people if the only people taking it are mostly Democrats? You would have won the 2020 election, and then Trump would have defeated the deep state. I haven't been keeping up with it, but Jeffrey Epstein's brother made some really weird email joke about Trump and Bill Clinton and Putin, putting Trump into the position of Monica Lewinsky. Like, that's where the news cycles are at right now. So I don't know what Fakeologist and I are going to talk about, but I'll be live with Fakeologist at 6 p.m. If you subscribe at ips.monster, you can get the live stream notification. And so we don't have many rules here, other than no mainstream media advocacy. So if you come in here telling us without addressing our evidence, that you must treat this as real. We landed on the moon. We landed on the moon. Like, I don't care what your opinions are, but you're not going to make any progress here if you can't actually state your claim and then debate it with the additional content that we would be providing. So if you're just straight advocating for it like a propagandist, we kind of ban that. So if you're a pro or an anti, these aren't skeptical positions. These are ideological positions. Like climate change isn't something you arrive at through skepticism. It's an ideological perspective. Being against weather weapons isn't something you arrived at by studying a matter. It's a political position. All these things are political. You know, they say I died suddenly. That's funny. I got the clot shot. That's what they say. You know, I do have something to say about that one because I heard a lot of people chanting clot shot, clot shot. You see the NPC meme. It's like, here comes the anti-vaxxers with another thing. First, it was like nanobots, black goo, then being clot shot. They're like, yeah, all these funeral directors are coming out and they're saying that the bodies are all full of clots. And I'm like, wait a minute, that's not making sense to me. Because when somebody goes through the process of getting embalmed, their blood's already somewhat, congealing and clotty, and clots are actually normal with these corpses. But more significantly, if somebody dies suddenly, they get autopsied. And if there's an autopsy, then the embalmer doesn't deal with clots because they cut the arteries. There's like 6 different points of injection instead of 1 with an autopsied body. So the clots wouldn't really be an issue with a autopsied body. So if he suddenly died, you wouldn't have clots. It wouldn't even come up as an issue for the embalmer. If somebody had clots and they didn't suddenly die, then the clots had nothing to do with it. So there's so many memes that inform alt media, but all of them are designed to keep you on their farm. So if you accept one premise, you accept a bunch of things. And this is down the line. If you're anti-vax, you're going to have certain views on aliens and borders. Hey, what's up, caller?
Hey, Tim, how you doing? Are you taking calls today?
Yeah, I'm taking calls now and at 6 p.m. with Fakeologist.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, just a quick thing here, man. It's been a while since I've called. It's absent bias, but you can also just call me Mark. But anyways, have you guys talked at all about the House of Dynamite film that came out on Netflix about the supposed nuke that was going to hit in Chicago, and it never actually got to the point in the film where it actually hit? It just showed everyone running and panicking, and no one actually knew if it was actually real. They even alluded to it being fake in the film. I wasn't sure if you guys had spoken about that film.
No, somebody had told me to watch it, and what is it called again?
House of Dynamite.
House of Dynamite. Okay, somebody told me to watch it. I'm going to have to watch it. That sounds like something I want to see because there's a growing buildup of this nuke stuff that's been going on for years. And I'm like, when are they going to detonate that particular fake event?
Exactly. And it's funny because my father-in-law had told me to read a book 1 second after, which is on a similar type of thing, but it was more on the EMP hitting, and this book came out in I think 2009, and it's a whole series, but they're also now coming out with a movie of it called 1 Second After, and it's about the fallout of an EMP event. And then when I saw him after to tell him that I had read the book, he was like, "Oh, now you got to watch. You have to watch House of Dynamite." And I watched it, and I was just like, I don't know, man. It's just interesting how in it they allude to the fact that it could be AI or fake. Or then I also got the idea in my head of when you were saying to us about how even back in the 1960s during the moon landing, they couldn't tell the difference between the simulation and it was I don't know. It was just an interesting film, how they acted, or they were supposed to be portraying it.
That might even be part of the psyop when they do it. Okay, so they say they deployed the pandemic. Well, half the population said it was fake, or they didn't trust the results. The lockdowns were unwarranted. Well, maybe when they do this, half the population will say it's fake. They'll say you don't need to lock down, the radiation can't hurt you, which is a talking point that I've heard from the right before. And the right wing, from Laura Loomer to Alex Jones, all sell iodine to protect you from radioactive fallout. So that could be built into the actual psyop. Absolutely.
Yeah. So, and then it was funny too, because there's a scene where that WNBA star is supposed to shoot hoops at like a charity event with the president, who's Idris Elba. So he's a black guy. She's a black ball player, of course. But she's like this huge socialite on Instagram. And it's just funny because at the time of the movie coming out, in I think it was like a week of October 26th or something like that, she's in the news saying how WNBA players need to be paid like NBA players. And I was just like, oh, that's funny that she's like a, you know, a cameo in this film as at the same time. But that's how they always do it.
Yeah. Well, somebody mentioned here, Welcome to Derry has nuke references. I saw the trailer for Welcome to Derry, and it had Bert the turtle, the duck and cover turtle.
I don't know who that is.
Oh, back in the 50s, there was this like commercial, this like cartoon of Bert the turtle. So when the nuke comes, you curl up like a turtle and hide under your desk, duck and cover. But that was in the Derry film.
Yeah, it's just interesting. And then, like, you know, the way the actors act in the film, it's like they call this one woman on the phone, and she's like, this is my day off. Meanwhile, like, they're all acting like, you know, this nuke is about to hit. And it gets down to, like, the very end. I don't want to spoil it, but, I mean, it is what it is. You don't actually see what happens. They leave you guessing as to what happens, so you don't actually know. But they allude to multiple different scenarios within the film itself. So I just thought it was interesting and wasn't sure if you guys had a take on it yet.
Okay, I'm gonna have to watch it. I appreciate the recommendation.
Yeah, sure, man. And yeah, love everything you're doing. One other quick question. I know you have some donate sites now on like Spotify, also YouTube. If you pay for something through Spotify, does that allow you to watch everything there, or?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And then same thing for YouTube as well?
No, YouTube is actually separate, but I'm redundant about it. So if I put something behind a YouTube paywall, I'll throw it behind all the other paywalls as well. So if you're Patreon or Spotify, so I try to make sure that no one has to buy redundant memberships to get the same content.
Got you, man. All right, cool, man. Well, I will be looking into further supporting, man. And yeah, good luck tonight on Fakeologist.
Well, appreciate this. Thank you. And the research itself, that's always appreciated in the think tank. That's what we're made of. So this is supportive.
Check it out.
Yeah, we'll do.
And yeah, it's worth a watch. It's not too long. You can always just skim through it too.
All right. Well, have a great evening. Thanks.
You too, Tim. Bye-bye, man.
All right. Excellent recommendations there. House of Dynamite. You know, I was also thinking about this too, because, you know, EMP being discussed. Wicked is in the news right now. It's about to come out, Wicked Part 2. Wicked 1 ends where the witch EMPs the Emerald City. And the Emerald City, of course, is a nickname for Seattle, which has been strongly built into this whole thing. So just, again, the movie ends with the blackout, a sudden ending. And he's alluding to how House of Dynamite has a sudden ending. Well, Part 2 comes out in a few days. And if you didn't know, Wicked Part 1, it's pretty much Antifa coded. Like, it's Trump is the Wizard of Oz. He's a fascist. They're rounding up the talking animals. You have all kinds of overlaps with this Trump thing, but it's like animal rights. And then you have the green skin component kind of written into it. So if you look at the storyline overall, though, it's very much like a leftist attack, an Antifa attack on, you know, if it's insinuating a world stage thing, which would go against what I would suspect. Mango says, is Wicked worth watching? You know, I don't know. It depends on how you consider worth watching. I go to movies with a notebook in hand. I'm studying the propaganda. I'm not going to be entertained. And I made a mistake of bringing friends with me once. And I went to go see Star City or Asteroid City. And I had to leave early because they couldn't handle it. They thought it was bad. I'm like, that's not the point. The point of it is we're analyzing the meaning of the movie, the characters, the context of its release, and related fake psyop events. So now I go to movies alone, so I don't have to worry about the sensibilities of other people who are there for entertainment. It's like, it's not entertainment, it's propaganda. Watching Mama says, Wicked is so political. Yeah, and I've noticed that the primary characters that you have, Cynthia, what's her name, and Ariana Grande, they're acting really strange, at least the way they're being portrayed on X in these clips, where it's like she's still in the Wicked Witch character, and she's got the other one under mind control, and she's really strange with the body language, always putting her long clawed fingers around her neck. Don't know what it means, but I think it's PR. It's probably connected to the movie. I don't assume anything that these celebrities do in front of the cameras is anything but an act. Like, I don't think they're spontaneous. All right, so we'll see you at 6 p.m. I'm not sure what we're going to talk about, but I'm sure we'll come up with something. It's a couple hours out. There's always stuff going on. The last big psyop, and my tweet about it has like 520,000 hits so far, is the plane crashing in Kentucky the day after Dick Cheney dies, just as the mayor of New York gets elected and is accused by the right of being a terrorist, and then 9/11 memes flood the internet. Not to mention numerous 9/11 references, thousands of planes being grounded. I mean, the death of Dick Cheney seemed to bring back 9/11 elements for like a 48-hour period. It was pretty intriguing to watch if you saw the big picture. Dwayne Garrett says, finally caught a live, but I'm late. Well, you're in luck. We're going to be live at 6 p.m. Open phones with Fakeologist. Right now, I just wanted to get further into the character breakdowns. And we were just noting how there are common denominators between the movie representations of Donald Trump. And these common denominators have to do with future fake events. So we're not just talking about the characterization. Oh, he's a bully. He's a real estate magnate. He's however they characterize him. No, it's specifically in that in these various entertainment representations, it has directly connected him with the World Trade Tower attacks and with a survived assassination attempt. So again, it's very consistent with what we were observing with the Charlie Kirk stuff. And I'm certain as we go deeper into this, because this is a predictable model, and that's why I'm saying this is intriguing, because there's levels to it, especially when you get into the birth dates and the peripheral roles. But as we go into these various psyops and deconstruct them by director, by Metascripted, and the characters, we're going to find more of these composites. And one of the points I made at the beginning is that Musk is like a composite god, as is Trump. And if you look at their parts, these are blended characters imbued with characteristics designed to resonate, to appeal, or to repel. I mean, you've got the manufactured villain element. I mean, look how triggered people get when you mention Bill Gates. Like, if you're not an anti-vaxxer, they want to stab you in the neck with the needle. Like, they're so fanatical. Like, please don't shoot me in the neck. Don't Kirk me, because I'm not against what you're against, because I'm not following the same orders from the black box. Anime Gematria says, UFC fighter named Islam won the championship at Madison Square Garden, New York City on Saturday. That's funny. So it's at Muhammad Ali Airport, which was only recently named such on a January 16th, kind of an inverted 9/11. Shout out to JLB for that point. But Muhammad Ali Airport, lead hijacker, Muhammad, plane crashes, hits a building after Dick Cheney's death. Then you have the Dearborn, Michigan terrorist named Muhammad. Then the mayor gets elected, and everybody on the right's crying out how, oh, you just elected Osama bin Laden. Rudy Giuliani throwing a fit. They're all throwing a fit about it. I see nothing but 9/11 memes for the rest of the day. And mind you, this is separate from the plane crashing. This is separate from Dick Cheney. And yet there's a concerted messaging here. Then you had the white powder at that Joint Andrews Air Force Base. Then you had the 5 firemen in New York getting hit by the bomb. I mean, it was then the grounded planes. So it was just so 9/11-y. And then to find out that Islam won in Madison Square Garden, pretty funny. But this is what you would expect to see when you have a metascripted version of events or series of events superimposed over the real world. And not only superimposing, but these are the stories that direct the public's attention. That's one of the main points about psyops. Psyops are the things they focus on that get the attention. They omit everything else. They focus on these things that drive the agenda. They literally shape the worldview story by story. And we see a lot of psyop reinforcement with memes, with names, with themes. I mean, you got the theme of, Muslim mayor, then Islam wins a championship. But and this is again pretty consistent with Kirk, we were kind of seeing the same thing. Like in the wake of the event, you had Alejandro Kirk, a baseball player, pain in the neck, they called him. And it looks like there's liquid gushing from his neck. He gets hit by a ball. Kirk hit, taken off field. And then he's the one whose bat broke at the end at the neck. So you had a lot of headlines about this pain in the neck Kirk that eerily seemed to reference Charlie Kirk, but in some kind of ironic way. And irony is a form of humor. I mean, we're talking about ironic things in events that people notice as such. So I'm saying this is irony written into the script. This is comedy. All right, this has been fun. We'll see you at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. And Fakeologist typically takes calls. If you have anything you want to talk about, anything but anti-vax, I'll hang up because I don't want to have to delete it. We can't have this stuff up on YouTube. Like, you guys had 5 years to make your point. You failed, but good try. But take the L. Let's move on. It was a psyop, bro, as they say. All right, we'll see you then.